Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We're learning Mishna Pesachim, Perek Zayin, chapter 7, Mishna Ches, Mishna 8. Nitma Shalem Ayrubai. If the entire Carbon Pesach or the majority of it became Tameh, Sarfin Oisi Lifnei Habira Me'atzei Maracha. You burn it Lifnei Habira. Literally translated means before the palace, which means at the Beis HaMikdash. With the wood that's designated for the altar's fire. Okay, so now here's some background. I'll read to you from the bottom here. As a rule, an offering that becomes tameh must be burned in the place where it was to have been eaten or offered. Accordingly, an offering that was to have been eaten only in the Beis HaMikdash, for example, a chatas, a sin offering, and it becomes tameh, must be burned in the Beis HaMikdash. An offering that was to have been eaten anywhere in Yerushalayim, for example, a carbon shlamim, a peace offering, may be burnt anywhere in Yerushalayim. So that's the general rule. It's burnt where it was supposed to have been eaten or offered. However, although the meat of the Pesach may be eaten anywhere in Yerushalayim, and therefore, if something goes wrong, it should be able to be burnt anywhere, the sages decree, anywhere in Yerushalayim that is, the sages decree that when most of the Pesach became tameh, it must be burned at the Beis HaMikdash. It's a special decree that it has to be burned by the Beis HaMikdash. Why? And the explanation is that when the entire thing became tameh, or the majority of it became tameh, since it likely became tameh due to the owner's negligence at that level, he must burn it at the Beis HaMikdash, which is the public place, so that he will be embarrassed and will be more careful in the future. That's the bottom line. If this is what happened to your carbon Pesach at this level, it's a sign of negligence, and therefore, the Chachamim said you got to burn it in a more public way, and that will in the future hopefully in the future make sure that you don't do that again. Now, at the same time, when we talk about that, you can use the atzei maracha, you can use the wood designated for the fire of the mizbeach. That means to say that once the Chachamim made you come to the Beis HaMikdash to have to burn it, they didn't make you have to schlep your own wood. They allowed you to use. They said you can use the wood at the Beis HaMikdash, but actually they took it a step further. And the wording is you burn it in front of the palace by the Beis HaMikdash, me'atzeya maracha, from the wood. That sounds like you're supposed to be using the wood. And on that we say, in fact, the Chachamim said that everyone must use the temple's wood so that people who do not have wood will not be embarrassed. Once we're making you already come to the Beis HaMikdash, right, and we would allow you to use the wood then, we're going to tell you to use the wood. So not to embarrass those who don't have. Okay, so that's if we're talking about where the majority of it, the majority or more, or the whole thing became tameh. Nitma mi'utai, but let's say the minority of it got burnt. Vahanoisar, or that which is leftover. Leftover means nosar. Leftover means that after a carbon has a designated time when it can be eaten, and any part of it that's not eaten becomes nosar, and you're not allowed to eat it. You have to burn it. So if the situation is where the smaller part became tameh, or we're talking about the leftover of the carbon Pesach, sarfen oisei b'chatzrei seyen, they can burn it in their courtyards, oyal gagoi seyen, or on their roofs, me'atzei atzman, using their own wood. In this situation, both in the case of where it's the smaller part or it's the nosar, we don't consider it such a negligence on your part that we make you schlep it to the Beis HaMikdash, and therefore the Chachamim said you then just burn it where it should be burned, which is where it could be eaten. And we say that it's me'atzei atzman, it's from their own wood. And they bring that here in the bottom. When a person burns the Pesach at home, he may not use the temple's wood, out of concern that if there is wood left over, he might use it for his personal needs, which is forbidden. Theoretically, you would be able to use the wood of that's designated for the Mizbeach to burn it anywhere. But the Chachamim were afraid that if they let you do that, you may have leftover wood and you'll use it not for the purpose of burning a carbon. So therefore, when you are burning it at home, the halacha is that you do not use the wood of the Beis Hamikdash. And then, however, Haitzaikonim Sarf Enoisef Nehabira Bishvelei Hanes Matzeh Maracha. Tzaikonim are people who are thrifty. Thrifty, we'll call them. You know, why should they use their own wood when they can use somebody else's wood? And therefore, the Tzaikonim, the thrifty ones, Sarf Enoisef Nehabira, they take their Korban Pesach back to the Beis Hamikdash. Bishvelei Hanes Matzeh Maracha, so that they can use the wood of the altar. Because at the Beis Hamikdash, you're not going to have that problem of any kind of leftovers. And the sages allowed such people to use the temple's wood so that they do not refrain from burning the meat out of their stinginess to save wood. The problem here was a practical one. Apparently, the Chachamim were concerned about people who will not burn the Korban Pesach because of the wood. And therefore, they said, if you want to take it back to the Beis Hamikdash and burn it there, you may. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Rabbi.
What happened with the bone?